Hello, dear friends. The memory of Babylon seduces at first, but decasts later when investigated. Opinion piece. Babylonian Economy. The origins of corruption. Symbol of Unethics. Worshippers of Mammon. Signs of the end times. The great whore of Revelation. Babylon always self-destructs. A wave of monkey major is coming. AI controls the financial markets. Let's start. We tend to think that the phenomenon of economic bubbles is rather recent, but this is not the case. Much older is the habit of some human beings to place their greed above the common good. We can find traces of this in Babylon. Sumerian society was based on barter and inequitable distribution, with the lion's share going to the ruling classes. The lack of ethics in the Babylonian economy was centered on fraud, usury, counterfeiting, and the use of false weights and measures. Symbols are used on clay tablets to represent usury or excessive charging of interest, as well as fraud and counterfeiting of goods. Because of the rubbish debt bubble, fields were left uncultivated, debts unpaid, and few become rich at the expense of a vast majority of humble people. The term Babylonian economy refers to an economic system using a set of accounting and financial record-keeping techniques similar to those used more than 4,000 years ago in the ancient city of Babylon in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. In the Babylonian economy, traders and merchants used clay tablets to record their transactions and facilitate the exchange of goods and services. Traditional markets. This Babylonian economy has been symbolized for centuries in London's Portobello Road or Madrid's Rastro, where, as Wang Sung put it, consciences are resold, skins are bought back, and if you are careless, we will buy you. And if you want money, we give it to you. You give it first, and we'll give it you later. Portobello Road, located in the Notting Hill district, is famous for its antiques market and its varied offer of second-hand goods, old clothes, and fresh food. It symbolizes the essence of commerce in life in London, where different cultures and communities come together in one place to buy, sell, and live together. El Rastro symbolizes the essence of Spanish culture, creativity and tradition of craftsmanship. El Rastro de Madrid is a famous open-air market held every Sunday and public holiday in La Latina neighborhood of Madrid, Spain. It has hundreds of stalls offering a wide variety of products, from antiques and second-hand goods to vintage clothes and fresh food. Similarities. Similarities of today's world with Babylon, which are repeated throughout humankind's history. The pursuit of power and wealth. As in ancient Babylon, today's society values wealth and power over the values such as justice and fairness. Powerful individuals and corporations often exert great influence over politics and economics, which can lead to inequality and corruption. Human trafficking. Although sacred prostitution is no longer practiced in most cultures, exploitation remains a global problem. The role of religion. In ancient Babylon, religion played a central role in controlling society and culture. Globalization and interconnectedness. As in ancient Babylon, today's society is increasingly interconnected and globalized. Pyramid system. At the top of the Babylonian power pyramid was the king, then the rallying group of priests, army commanders, lush landowners, and merchants. Third were the freed citizens, such as peasants, herdsmen, merchants, and craftsmen. And at the bottom of the pyramid were the slaves with no rights. No compassion. We know where the path of darkness leads, both for individuals and nations. They go mad and destroy themselves. Not only do they lose all sense of right and wrong, but in the end they forget what is true and what is not. Some of them become very convincing liars because they believe in their own self-deception. The system crumbles because the leadership is disconnected from reality and cares for nothing beyond its own self-interest. Babylon is always self-destructing. It is said that the fallen angels taught humankind certain skills and knowledge they didn't know before, such as Babylonian economics, metallurgy, the art of war, the use of poisons or black magic. Evidently, it is part of the discipline of the dark side to kill their conscience, their compassion, and the remorse that sane and decent people have. The children of darkness happen to be some of the richest and longest lived people on the planet. Throwing people into a fiery furnace was a favorite means of capital punishment among Babylonian kings. More recently, the queens of Europe bathed in virgin blood to prevent wrinkles. In this way, they become immune to worrying about others or repentance. Their goal is to feel no regret, compassion, or consent for their victims. They strive to feel nothing at all for others or for the suffering of others. They keep all their focus and attention on themselves and what is good for them exclusively, with their heart disconnected. All these individuals walk among us, looking as normal as you or me. They tell jokes. They carry on intelligent and erudite conversations. They can be witty and charming and often attractive. After all, they have nothing to do but splurge on themselves and devote time and attention to their appearance. Mammon worshippers. No wonder, either, that they are so focused on mammon, money and profit tainted with the suffering of others. Money, as it exists today, is the natural complement to their practices. It gives them the kind of self-gratification they seek and the power over others that keeps them safe. Mammon is a deity mentioned in the Bible and in some later Christian traditions. In the Bible, the term mammon is used as a personification of wealth and material possessions, and the love of money is said to be a form of idolatry. In some later religious texts, Mammon became a demon or evil spirit associated with greed and wealth. In some traditions, he is considered the prince of demons or a ruler of hell. Some interpretations see Mammon as a symbol of the danger or of excessive wealth and the desire for material gain, while others see him as a real and malevolent being who seeks to corrupt people with the temptation of wealth. Self-destruction. Babylon was one of the greatest and most powerful cities of the ancient world, but also one of the most troubled and tumultuous. Throughout its history, Babylon was conquered and rebuilt several times by different empires and kings, which contributed to its self-destruction. However, the most significant fall of Babylon occurred in 539 before Christ, when the Persian king Cyrus the Great invaded the city and conquered it after a long siege. Cyrus was able to do this because Babylon was awakened and internally divided after years of corruption and political instability. Cyrus allowed the Babylonians to retain their religion and culture, but dismantled much of their political and economic structure. This included the destruction of the temples and the reduction of the privileges of the priests, who were an important part of the city's power. The fall of Babylon marked the end of the Chaldean dynasty and the beginning of the Persian era in Mesopotamia. In short, Babylon's self-destruction was due to a combination of factors, including corruption, political instability, wars, and invasion by the Persians. The Great Harlot. The expression Great Whore is mentioned in the Book of Revelation. In that context, Babylon is described as a great city that wields great power and influence over the kings and inhabitants of the earth, and seduces humankind with its wealth and luxuries. The term Great Harlot is thought to refer to the image of a seductive woman who uses her beauty and charm to lure men and lead them astray. In the Bible, this image is used as a metaphor to describe Babylon as a city that seduces and corrupts humankind with its wealth and luxury, to the detriment of their spiritual well-being. Babylon was an ancient city in the region of Mesopotamia, which became a powerful empire in antiquity. Its name has been used symbolically on several occasions to represent power and corruption in the world. In the case of the Great Harlot, it refers to the image of a city that corrupts humankind with its riches and pleasures, rather than leading them to true wisdom and righteousness. Sacred prostitution. Sacred prostitution in Babylon, also known as fertility worship, was a common practice in many ancient cultures, including Babylon. According to historical records, fertility and prosperity in Babylonia were believed to be closely related to the worship and veneration of fertility goddesses, such as Ishtar. In this context, young virgin women were trained in temples to become priestesses and act as representatives of the goddess. These priestesses often dressed in exotic attire and jewelry, offered themselves to temple visitors for intimate relations in an act of worship to the fertility goddess. These relationships were considered sacred and were believed to have a powerful effect on the fertility of the land and the prosperity of the community. The goddess Ishtar was believed to bless those who engaged in such practices, ensuring a good harvest and an increase in population. It is important to note that sacred prostitution was not the only form of prostitution in Babylon, and that many women were forced into prostitution for economic reasons, unfortunately. Furthermore, sacred prostitution has also been criticized by some as a form of sexual exploitation disguised as religion. Reset News. The best is yet to come. It is an educational bridge from the old to the new paradigm. The white hat moves are changing the game. All the pieces of the game are falling into place. These moves are connected with the glittering drops. According to Judy Bington, the financial reset may not happen until the end of May. On Wednesday, 3rd May, someone in the Treasury blocked the financial restart or reset. He got caught. For the first time in history, regional banks are working in the red. The banking crisis is not over. More banks are going under and are in serious financial trouble. Janet Yellen warns that if the debt ceiling is not raised by Congress before June 1st, the US could default on its debt. Record demand for gold at the Fed in the first quarter due to banking turmoil. North Carolina passes bill banning digital currencies payments. Zimbabwe's central bank will start selling gold-backed digital currency for investors next week and set the minimum price at $10 token. Bolivia is on the brink of an economic crisis, according to The Economist. According to Goldilocks, reports revealed that there is a slowdown in employment. This affects regional banks and creates a greater liquidity crisis, which increases the pressure to create digital currencies. There are 4 options: stable non-bank issued currencies such as USDT and USDC, stable fiat-backed bank issued currencies such as EUR convertible, CBDC, and tokenized deposits. Each of these is in the market and competing with each other. The clock is ticking to meet the 30th June deadline. Tucker Carlson, fired from Fox News, receives $100 million offer as Fox News plummets in ratings and is overtaken by MSNBC. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair convicted of war crimes in Malaysian court. The drones that attacked the Kremlin managed to enter restricted territory because they were in automatic mode, with a map loaded into their memory. The education system is not an education system, but an indoctrination system. Bank mergers. A wave of bank mergers is coming. In some cases, mergers can be beneficial for the entities involved, allowing them to increase their scale and diversify their operations. However, they can also have negative effects, such as reducing market competition and increasing systemic risks. In any case, decisions of bank mergers are usually subject to rigorous analysis and assessment by regulatory and competition authorities. Artificial control. The Pentagon's chief of artificial intelligence fears the potential of this technology. Artificial intelligence is playing an increasingly important role in financial markets and is used extensively in decision-making as a data analysis. However, AI does not directly control financial markets, as they are the result of the interaction of many different participants, including investors, companies, governments, and central banks. What AI can do is provide faster and more accurate information and data analysis, allowing investors and traders to make informed decisions more quickly and effectively. Trading algorithms can also rely on AI to help automate certain tasks such as stock selection and portfolio management. It is important to note that while AI can be a valuable tool in financial markets, it is not infallible and may have limitations. For example, it can be influenced by biased data or technical problems. It is therefore important for investors and traders to be aware of the limitations of AI and use it carefully and strategically in their financial operations. Threat of collapse. We need a great awakening to gently rouse people from irrational cult delusions. In the meantime, as we face the daily barrage of disinformation and misinformation, funded propaganda, carefully selected and censored news sources, we must remain vigilant in an assessment of reality. To keep people asleep, the elite have to go through endless cycles of panic that shuts down critical thinking, followed by a relative calm that seduces the herd into accepting the new normal. Think of it as shock therapy for society as a whole. And that is where financial markets come into the picture. The threat of imminent financial collapse is a sure way to scare the head. Are you ready for a bank run? I suspect that's what they intend, to scare people into a stampede that will see small and regional banks crushed by the way of panicking peasants, all while the big banks snatch assets from smaller banks, small businesses and consumers alike. Then the net result is the consolidation of power and control in the hands of the big bankers and their backers. Signs of the end. Belief in the end times refers to a series of events or signs that indicate that the world as we know it will come to an end. Some of the signs mentioned in the Bible include the following: wars and rumors of a large-scale war throughout the world, earthquakes, famines, plagues, and other natural disasters, appearance of false prophets and religious leaders who deceive people, increase of wickedness and immorality in society, appearance of the Antichrist and his world government, persecution of the righteous and spread of materialism, appearance of signs in the sky such as the red moon and the darkened sun, the appearance of the figure of the Antichrist, which refers to an entity or person who represents evil. It is described as a political and religious leader who would appear in the end times and deceive humankind with his false teaching and miracles. It is said that the Antichrist would be worshipped by many and would establish a world government that would control humankind. Finally, he would be defeated by God at the final judgment. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.